Hello, digital wordsmiths and AI enthusiasts. I'm Marigold, back to navigate with you the exciting crossroads of artificial intelligence and storytelling. In today's mini session, we'll delve into the heart of ethereal style and voice with the help of our trusty AI sidekick and resource, ChatGPT. Our journey today isn't about plots, characters, or settings. It's about tone, mood, and voice. It's about finding that distinct narrative beat that makes your story uniquely yours and teaches the AI to dance to it. We'll craft AI-generated prompts that resonate with your ethereal style, echo the voice of your characters, and reverberate the ambiance of your scenes. In this installment of our 25 on the Fly series for ChatGPT, we're leveraging the capabilities of ChatGPT version 4 to master the art of voice in our narratives. So, strap in because we're about to embark on an enlightening quest to create the tonal, emotional, and stylistic blueprint of your AI to follow in its prose generation. Our goal is simple but profound: to enable you to orchestrate a harmonious symphony of ethereal style, character voice, and narrative mood, all using AI. So, are you ready to elevate your storytelling with a hint of AI magic? Excellent. Let's dive right in. So for today's session, as stated, I'm going to use ChatGPT-4 as you see up at the top. I have already selected GPT-4. I'm going to go ahead and paste in my prompt just so that you can get an idea of what that prompt looks like. So prompt number 1 states, describe the writing style of the sample below taken from the first chapter of a genre fiction novel. Describe the writing style to assist in future AI prompts to generate fiction words similar to the sample. Now, you'll notice that I've got the little break here with the 3 asterisks, and then I state to paste a sample of 1,000 to 2,000 words in ChatGPT or Claude, whichever AI, your choice. Now, why did I state that the sample below was taken from the first chapter? Because one of the things that people often say is, well, my tone of my first chapter and maybe midway through need to differ. So in that opening chapter, you're introducing your character or characters. So the tone may differ when you're introducing your character versus when you're at the midway point or right in the middle of a battle. So again, that tone of your piece is going to differ because you're at different stages within the book. So I want you to think about what that tone would sound like in your body of work if you're wanting to match something for your first chapter. In addition to that, what would it sound like if it is a romance scene? What would it sound like if it is a race car competition? Or something like Mad Max, where people are trying to race to a specific destination. So again, think about how your body of work needs to sound. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to remove that section of my prompt that says to paste the sample in here. And I'm going to actually do just that. As you can see, I've pasted a sample inside. It is from one of my Academy urban fantasy. It has 649 words. This is my excerpt 1. This is at the beginning of a book. So I'm basically wanting to know what that tone is for my character. I'm wanting the AI to match my voice and my style. So I am going to leave the description stating that it needs to be taken from this first chapter. Now, right where it says the type of genre, I can either leave that blank or I can go ahead and state that this is an Academy urban fantasy. Now, I can state other aspects of it if I want to. Again, that's entirely up to me as an author. If I want to write in a couple of tropes in here, I can do that too. But let's see what ChatGPT gives us. So it states that the excerpt from the Academy Urban Fantasy novel employs a dramatic and suspenseful writing style. It emphasizes the characters, interaction, and development while weaving in elements of supernatural and mystical, So the style is highly descriptive, making use of imagery and metaphors, which adds depth to the narrative and helps the reader visualize the unfolding events. Now, it's also written in third-person perspective, focused on the protagonist. So, taking a look at this body of work, when the AI went in and looked at the sample, it is going to give me a description of just that snapshot. So I'm going to go and grab my next prompt, which is going to show you how to extract 40 words from what ChatGPT gives you so that you can use that. So let me go ahead and grab that now. So here I'm going to go ahead and paste in another prompt. Write me a 40-word prompt to direct AI in the generation of prose that fits this style of voice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So it went ahead and wrote so the prompt states, write a dramatic, suspenseful, and descriptive scene in an urban fantasy setting. Feature a tense dialogue between a fledgling magic user and a threatening, arrogant antagonist. Integrate elements of the supernatural and use evocative language to convey emotions and build suspense. Now, this says a whole lot about my character. It says something about my style of voice, and it's all information that as a writer, I would want to be able to convey. So again, keep in mind that the information that you put down or you provide in your excerpts, you really want to pinpoint that emotion or that mood or that tone of the specific body of work that you are wanting to capture. So say you're writing a romance scene and maybe it's a sex scene for a dark mafia romance. Well, if it's a love scene, you want to take a look at something. Maybe you have multiple books that are already written. Take a scene, grab an excerpt of that scene and then run it through and find out what your tone or style is. It will go a long way toward helping you identify content. Now, in addition to doing just the one sample, you can also do it as a two-part. If you want to have the AI provide you with something that you can fill in, say, to your maybe the style and the genre box. If you're using, say, Story Engine through Pseudo-Write, you could ask ChatGPT to write the 40-word prompt as directed, as what was done earlier, to fit the style of the voice. You can ask it to not use the names of your characters in the sample. And then you can also ask it to write a 40-word prompt to direct AI in the generation of prose that fits the genre and subgenre of the sample. Now, again, I'm stating to not use the names of the characters in the sample because one of the things that you can do is if you are using a sample or excerpt from another body of work of yours, and then you upload it into, say, Story Engine or Jasper or another AI, and you tell it to write the prose, it could confuse the AI if you have character names that don't belong in your story. So always keep that in mind. So let's take a look at what the AI generates using the prompt that provides for both the style and for the genre. So here it says voice-based prompt. Craft a gripping third-person narrative where a novice in the medical arts confronts an experienced haughty adversary. Ensure a blend of vivid descriptions, intense dialogue, laced with unexpected revelations and undercurrents of suspense. Now, on the genre-based prompt, it states, in an urban fantasy setting, depict a novice practitioner of magic coming face to face with a condescending, powerful enemy. Weave in elements of supernatural phenomenon, tense-filled dialogue, and suspenseful revelations that hint toward an impending apocalypse. Okay, so this is very unique to this young adult series, which, currently I have 7 books in there. I've already plotted out 7 more. These are bodies that I wrote before AI, so I'm wanting to match that style for the next 14 books. So all in all, I'm going to have about 21 books in this series. So again, take a look at how it can give you the voice base and the genre base. So let's try out another excerpt. So I am going to hop on over, grab another excerpt. First, let me grab my prompt. So I'm going to grab the first prompt that we used, which was to describe the writing style. So as you can see, I've already input that into ChatGPT 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my excerpt, and I'm going to go ahead and plug that in right down here at the bottom. ChatGPT 4 has read the excerpt, and it is stating to provide that the excerpt provided expert, fast-paced, action-oriented, and descriptive writing style characteristics that tie to a science fiction romance SFR genre. It states that it is rich in technical and speculative terms, and that it creates a vivid depiction of futuristic space-faring, society. So it gives me a lot of information just in this one chapter. And what's really interesting about this is that it gave me all this information just on an excerpt that's only 1,053 words. So let's go ahead and see what my prompts will turn this into. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my prompts that will actually generate this content into 40-word prompts. Now, one of the things that I want to remind you of is sometimes chat doesn't always stick to the 40 words. So if you find that you need to pare it down because he maybe goes over 1 or 2 words, pare it down. But if you can't pare it down by removing a few words here and there, then I recommend that you go ahead and maybe use hyphens in between the words just to conserve space. Oh, here it comes. Prompt for style of voice. Boy, that is really moving slow. Not sure what's going on with OpenAI right now, but it looked like it was really thinking. So the prompt for style of voice states that it's a guide a seasoned starship captain as he spearheads an intense space battle against an alien armada. Emphasize his unyielding determination, utilize quick, punchy sentences, and infuse humor in dialogue while rendering vivid imagery in the galactic battleground. Now, the prompt for the genre and subgenre would be, in a thrilling space opera romance, describe an audacious warrior's pursuit of a treacherous enemy amidst a starship war. So again, it's providing me with keywords for the genre and subgenre. Up in the voice style, it's talking about how some of the sentences are punchy. So this is our second example. And let's go back and grab our prompt. So give me just a moment. I am going to grab the third excerpt. Now, since we did the male's voice, since we're alternating POVs for this one, I did the male's voice. Now I'm going to do the females. And if you're wondering how I get the spaces in there, on a PC, I'm going to hit Shift and then Enter, Enter, and then I can go ahead and paste my content. And I believe it works on my Mac that way too. And then just copy your stuff in there. Okay, so let's take a look. Hopefully it moves a little bit faster this time. We'll see. Oh, yes, it did. The writing style in the sample provided is characterized by an engaging mix of detailed descriptions, intense emotional insight, and dialogue that is both realistic and character revealing. So it gives the AI an understanding of how I want this content to be written. I am going to ask it now to provide me with the written prompts. Let's see if it'll give us just the content that we had asked for earlier on the first excerpt. Style of voice prompt. Compose a vivid action scene where a resilient space captain and their crew encounter hostile, So on this one, it's the female character and she is experiencing battle in space. So we want to heighten the tension, the emotion. She is a bit defiant. She has some bravery. So again, it's pinpointing specific areas. So as you can see, the style of voice prompt stated that it wants the AI to compose a vivid action scene where a resilient space captain and crew encounter, hostile extraterrestrials. So it goes on to talk about the dialogue, the heightened tension, the emotions, the defiance, the bravery. Inside of the genre and subgenre prompt, it states to write a scene from a science fiction romance novel where human space travelers are apprehended by an imposing alien race. So it's saying to incorporate fear, fascination, and the initial stirrings of a tense yet compelling interspecies relationship or romance. So again, it's asking for it to provide those subtle hints. Now be careful when you use the word romance in any of your prompting, because that's where you can get a lot of the "we're in this together" or "we can do it." So be really careful with that. I know a fellow writer friend of mine, Nicole, she came up with the use of romanticism, which kind of cuts some of that "we're in this together" out. So if you're finding that you have a lot of that when you're using your prompts, remove the word romance and use romanticism. So let's go ahead and take a look at excerpt number 4. Now, this is from a dark mafia romance. So, well, let's just see if chat kind of smacks my hand or not. Because sometimes chat will let me put stuff in here and sometimes it doesn't like it so much. So I do have a few trigger words, some curse words in this one. There's no sexual content, but it does have some curse words. And the AI isn't always happy with certain curse words. So if you notice that you plug something in and you get a warning, then take a look at the excerpt that you're uploading and remove maybe some of the curse words that may have more pungent meaning and remove those or replace them with something that is a little bit of a softer word. So let's go ahead and see what it says. So it's letting me know that this dark mafia romance is written in a first-person narrative. The story is narrated from first person, as it stated, which provides a direct personal perspective and insight into the protagonist's thought. It does ask for a colloquial language, which, at first I didn't think that that had much of an impact. But when I had that in my prompt and then took it out, it really made a really big difference in the way that my characters spoke and whether or not they used slang or not in some of their content. So if you're looking for that grittier, darker edge to content for your prose, consider adding something similar within your prompt. So let's take a look and see what it tells us about the actual prompts themselves when we ask it to generate. So as you can see, it gave me quite a few items here, such as the internal dialogue, detailed description, romantic and sexual tension, emotional intensity. Now keep in mind, the excerpts that I used for this are not AI written content. This is actually based 100% on my personal writing from, I'd say, about 2.5 years ago. So this is work that I did prior to beginning to play with AI. So let's take a look at what it gives me. So again, as it stated earlier in the description, it is a first-person narrative, colloquial language, definitely leave that in, and vivid descriptive details, mixed, humor and wit with deep introspection. The characters should regularly engage in self-dialogue, revealing their internal emotions and struggles. Now, I do that a lot in my writing when I am writing in first person. If you're writing third, you may not want that in there. Now, when I'm talking about that, deeper POV where the character has internal thoughts, I'm talking about the internal thoughts where they are in italics, not where the character is saying, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do next. He says under his breath. That, I don't want any of that in my book, but I can have the character having some deeper internal thoughts and internal dialogue where they may be second guessing something. Now, looking at the prompt for a genre and subgenre, it says to produce a dark romance narrative where the protagonist encounters a striking stranger. Use detailed descriptions to create intense romantic tension. No, now again, you could remove romantic and put in romanticism. Now this one says to blend lighthearted banter with haughty memories and to keep, the emotional depth and intensity. You want to keep that alive in your body of work, especially if it's a scene where your characters are first beginning to meet and they both have some doubts. So again, in this one, this is my female and male meeting for the first time. So the excerpt that we just looked at for the Dark Mafia Romance was actually from my female protagonist's point of view. So the next prompt that I'm going to want to use, just so that you can get a good idea of, that's the female. Now let's look at how the AI would kind of give me a prompt, what it would pinpoint for my male in his first chapter where he meets her. So this is after the initial meeting, kind of after that initial meet cute. And now this is his first actual real chapter. So I want to see what the AI is going to pull for him. And again, if you pull from multiple parts of the book, it is okay to mix and match them. If you find elements that you like from both sections, then pull from there, mash them together. If you're unsure of how you want to mash them together, check and see how chat would put them together. So there are so many alternatives to how you can run something. So let's take a look at what the next excerpt in the Mel's POV turns out. Okay, so I did get a content warning because it does have some really descriptive curse words in there, but it is still providing the writing style. It says that it's a blend of hard-boiled crime fiction and dark romance. I already know that this is a dark mafia romance, but it actually gives me a few more words or descriptions that I can use. Now, this narrative, as we already know, is first person. It is through the eyes of a calculating, observant, and, dangerous male protagonist. Now, why is that important? Because it's painting a picture of my character. So I can take elements of this and I can build my own prompt. Now, another thing that it does, I tend to write when I'm not writing with the AI, I tend to write in a cinematic style. My content naturally moves at a very fast pace. So when I plug in a lot of my content, especially when there's a lot going on in the scene, it will state that, it's in a cinematic nature or style. And that is something that I found that if I ingrain that into my AI writing, I can almost mimic my voice, which is actually pretty amazing when you think about the AI isn't really learning from my writing. It's doing a predictive index. It's looking at patterns in my writing, and then it is pinpointing those and trying to emulate that. And through the emulation, it's able to give me those prompts that help me get closer to what my actual voice or style is. So if you have some old writing of yours, plug it in, see what it says. Now, let's take a look at the prompts. Again, it's the same one, the prompt for style and the prompt for genre. So let's take a look and see what it says. So here it is asking to generate a first-person narrative from the perspective of a confident and observant protagonist, same thing there, embroiled in a power play. Use detailed descriptions, cinematic imagery, and a blend of direct dialogue and insightful internal monologue to build suspense. So it's also asking for the genre and subgenre to compose a narrative set in a world of dark mafia romance. Now, the other thing that you can put in there other than dark mafia would be mafioso. And the system actually handles that a little bit different, which is pretty cool when you're generating. Now, the protagonist is deeply intertwined with the underworld. The AI, I'm instructing it to layer the narrative with sexual tension, dangerous conflicts, and intricate character interactions. Use unexpected twists to heighten the senses of danger and unpredictability. So I embed a lot of that in my writing naturally. So in my AI, I would like to see that as well. And I can guide it through my beats, but having something like this on my style of voice, something that pinpoints my genre and subgenre and how I manipulate it, that is huge for me as a writer who is using AI. So let's go and grab another sample. So one of the things that I grabbed was for a summary for something that I actually wrote in AI. And I was watching a fellow AI user, Nicole, and she was actually using my prompts. And then she went and she took my prompts, made them her own. And I was really impressed by how she actually took the summary of one of the bodies that she was working on, and she plugged that in, and she had the AI give her information on her summary, but she didn't stop there. She also asked it to do it on the beats. So first we're going to play with the summary. So I'm going to go and grab a summary from one of my bodies of work. This one is more of a mythology based body of work. It has Vikings and, back, 900 before Christ. So I am going to pull my actual summary for chapter 1, and I'm going to plug that in as my sample. Now it is relatively short, as you can see right here. Chapter 1 starts, and as you can see, it is really, really short. So let's see what it gives me. So it lets me know, of course, that it's in third person narrative, character-focused introspection. It employs a descriptive style that paints vivid images of the character and the environment. It does list a character's name. It reveals his motives, regrets, hopes, and adds layer of psychological depth. So it gives me a little bit of information about that summary. Now, I'm interested in seeing what kind of prompts that it comes up with. And I really want to show you the difference between what it pulls when we use just the summary and what it pulls when we use maybe the summary and the beats. So let's take a look at the prompts, my prompt number 2, which is going to tell it to send it into the style and the genre and subgenre prompts. So let's take a look at that. Now, it is going to ask under voice prompt to craft a narrative centered on an ex-warrior living in solitude who's tormented by his dreams. It illustrates his struggle, the call to action triggered by these dreams. And, it needs to have text or prose with psychological depth and, again, vivid descriptions. I like a lot of vivid imagery and description in my scenes. And I like for my images and the descriptions of the scene to kind of paint a larger picture that goes with the mood of what's happening. Now, under the genre prompt, it's to write an introductory chapter for a Norse mythology-based fantasy novel. So it got that correct. A protagonist, once a celebrated warrior, receives a cryptic vision from an ancient world tree symbol. So again, all of this is hitting straight on with my body of work. And you saw how easy this is. Just plug in your summary, ask it to match the style. Now, if you are a pseudo-write user and you use Story Engine, you can match your style within Story Engine. If you are a Jasper user, you have the ability to go in and draft your voice in there as well. But ChatGPT gives you another avenue to go in and do every single summary of your outline. That way, every single time you go to ask the prose to write, the AI to write prose for you, it's going to generate something that is unique to that specific summary. And it might help you pinpoint the voice and the style and the genre that you're looking for in that specific scene. Now, let's do one last example. This time, I am going to pull the actual beats of that specific first chapter. So let me go ahead and grab the first part of the prompt. I am going to paste that into ChatGPT. And now I'm going to go back in and let me grab my prompt, my prompt excerpt. So I'm going to go in. This time I'm doing the chapter summary and I am doing all of the beats. I just realized I actually grabbed an additional excerpt for a thriller. So after this Norse myth, I might do one more for you guys. Just because I think the thriller one came up with some really interesting content. So as you can see, I have all of my beats. I have a total of 16 beats that I put in here. And in addition to all the beats, I'm scrolling up to the top. I also have my chapter 1 summary. And then I have my prompt that says to extract it. Now, this is a first chapter, but you don't have to use chapter. You can always you can remove that, taken from, you can say from a chapter outline of a genre fiction novel. So let's see what that says. And again, make these prompts work for you. If you want to change the verbiage, by all means, change them up. Make the prompt work for you. So the writing style of this is a detailed, structured, and cinematic. So you notice that when I added the beats, it gave me a little bit more information. So again, I already told you that I like to write with a very structured, stringent, pattern. And I like to write with more of a cinematic feel to it when I write with very visually descriptive scenes. So the AI picked up on that even in my beats. And it's showing that it's structured, cinematic. It's characterized by clear and, sequential breakdown of the narrative into beats where each beat has a specific purpose. Now, it is talking about how it's moving in chronological order. It is fostering a dynamic pace and provides, an approach for the storytelling. Now, it does pinpoint that the style adopts elements of epic fantasy and adventure genres, which is important because in my retelling of this story and what I'm putting into it, I want to have that epic fantasy feel. I want it to, I want the drama to unfold. I want there to be rising tension. I want there to be cliffhangers that promise, further conflict. I want to keep a reader at the edge of their seat when they come to an end of a chapter. I want them to think, oh my God, I've got to see what's happening next. So that's why I like to end my chapter beats with some type of a cliffhanger that will feed into the next chapter's opening hook. So let me go ahead and grab my prompt. Okay, so let's take a look and see what that gives us. So it's asking to craft a narrative detailing the internal struggle of a once celebrated hero. So we do see that. We see a chapter from an epic fantasy novel centered on a lone warrior. So there's a little bit of repeat there. So you could always remove some of the repeats, especially if you're working in a tool like Jasper or inside of Pseudo-Write Story Engine, because space is important. So if you have repeats in your style or genre, then go in and remove some of those repeats so that you can condense and make room for, additional wording. Now, looking at the style, it is saying that it is focusing on character development, setting, conflict, and resolution, and it ends on a cliffhanger to maintain suspense. Now, those are all important things for the AI to understand stylistically that this is the approach that I want taken. Now, it did leave out some of the areas where it said that it is visual and cinematic. So that part of it, I feel it kind of missed on the beat. But some of these other items that it picked up are actually really nice to embed in the style or genre. So as I stated a while ago, I actually have one more prompt. This time I have a very condensed summary. And when I say condensed, it is extremely condensed. But I didn't need a whole lot in there because I plotted everything myself. You can see that my beats are really, really slim for this story. There are 18 of them, and everything is very lean, very condensed, very to the point. And that's all that I needed. I actually generated this one inside a story engine. I played with it a little bit in Jasper also. But if you notice, my first chapter is really, really short. It's talking about a man who wakes in the hospital disoriented with fragmented memories and traumatic brain injury during a covert mission. So let's take a look and see what it says for him. So it says that the style is detailed and methodical, presented in a chronological order, step-by-step format. Now, I also used this not only to write a novel, but I used it to write a feature script. And then I also used it to play around with the beats to write the first full season of a series, just because I wanted to see how the AI would handle that. And it's interesting. I wish that I had thought to do this type of style maintenance when I was writing that with AI assistance, because I think this would have really drilled into each one of my scenes and helped to give a more concise, clear picture of what was happening and the tone and mood. I spent so much time wrapping this content into my beats that if I had had these prompts early on, then it would have made that writing so much easier. I have written a couple of books since finding these prompts that CC and I put together. And since then, I do find that the AI, being able to drive the AI forward with style, voice, and with the genre and subgenre in this manner, kind of helps push the AI in the direction I'm looking for. So here, again, it's methodical, presented in chronological order, step-by-step format. It has exposition as well as dramatic action to drive the story forward. The narrative is characterized by a focus on some internal thoughts, some perceptions, and emotional experience of the protagonist. So let's take a look at how it's taken some of these. Because let's see, there's significant feature or focus on the style for exploration of the mysterious and potentially dangerous implication of David's newfound abilities. So again, there's specific information that it is pulling in when I'm asking it to analyze this material. So let's see what it does with the prompt. And this is actually a first chapter. So I'm going to leave it the way it is, and let's see what it does. So the tone of voice is narrate the story of a disoriented man waking up in a secret lab who discovers an unusual ability for telepathy. He can communicate through telepathy. He can communicate with people. He uses detailed chronological beats that focus on the character's internal perceptions and dialogue. So think of it this way. If you have beats and your beats focus on those specific items and there's dialogue driven scenes, if you are pushing the AI to focus on those, then it will really expand on those items. Now, I like what it did for the genre and subgenre, because it said to craft a sci-fi thriller about a biologist waking, up in a high-tech research facility with no memory. So again, it actually pulled some information on another character in there. So I would have to update this because he is not the biologist. He is the officer. And we also have a biologist who wakes up and she's very confused as well. So I would have to go in and make changes because this specific body had a section A from his POV and a section B from her POV. So it split up and gave me his style of voice, and then it gave me her genre and subgenre classifications. So in the future, if you have alternating POVs in the same chapter and you have chapter beats and you run this, either specify that you need it to give you information that breaks it down for the male and the female, or split it off to only upload information for your prompt for the male. And when you're done extracting that information, send off the information for the female. And there we have it, digital storytellers. We've reached the end of this session on exploring and capturing authorial style and voice using AI-generated prompts. Now, we've traversed the creative landscape from the whispers of tone and mood to the distinctive cadence of character voice. This was an intriguing exploration for me. It's learning how to manipulate the AI to mirror our unique narrative styles. It's shaping character voices and setting the perfect mood for our scenes. Now, if you found this session insightful, do us a favor and hit that like button on this video. If you haven't already subscribed to the AI Writers Connection channel, now would be the perfect time. So you wouldn't want to miss a future, session that are brimming with innovative storytelling strategies. So be sure to hit subscribe. Also, make sure you hit that notification bell to stay up to date on our latest content. You can also join our AI Writers Connection Discord group where these conversations continue, where ideas are exchanged and creatives support each other in their journey. All are welcome in this vibrant community. You'll find the link in the description below, along with the prompts we used today. We'd love to hear your thoughts or questions about today's session. Now, please drop them in the comments below. Your feedback and curiosity drive us forward. Until next time, keep experimenting, keep pushing boundaries, and most importantly, keep writing. The future of storytelling is here, and it's evolving at the hands of creatives just like you. I'm excited to see the tales that you'll spin. So stay tuned. I'll catch up with you soon.